Now, what does beef, mushrooms, garlic, and sour cream all have in common? Beef stroganoff, the Russian dish invented by a French chef, made by millions of American home cooks every year. Now, I know there's a famous red box that we all grew up on, but today we're going to find out that making it from scratch might not be as hard as you think it is. So follow me this winter and let's make some stroganoff. First things first, we're going to grab our knife and we're going to give it a nice hone. Now, this isn't sharpening, this is honing. There is a difference, and someone out there more qualified can explain it better than I can. Also, before I handle meat, I generally do like to wear a pair of gloves just in case I need to handle something or grab a child quickly and my hands stay clean. For this meal, we're going to be using 2 steaks. Here I have some top sirloins. They're a good size, but you can use ground beef or whatever any other cut of steak you would like. I like to use the leaner meat for this meal. And we're just going to cut these in strips on the bias. What's that mean? That means you're tilting your knife and creating an angle, not just straight cuts. Once that one steak is cut, we're going to grab a bowl and we're going to put it all into a bowl so we can marinate it later. And then we're just going to do the same thing to the other steak. And I'm cutting these at probably about a 1/4 inch thick. Thick enough to where you have a good bite, but not too thick that it doesn't cook. And after we're done cutting all that meat, we're going to grab some spices, but before we do that, we got to take off those nasty gloves. So, for this marinade, we're going to need some allspice, some soy sauce, and some oil to bind it all together. For the allspice, here I'm using about maybe half tablespoon of allspice. Oh, there's a little bit more. And that'll give a very unique, great flavor for the steak. We're also going to have some salt, of course. Make sure to get some on your cutting board. Some black pepper. And then the soy sauce. Here I'm just going by my eye, and this is probably about a 1/4 cup ultimately that I'm going to be using. And then here about 2 tablespoons of oil to help bind it all together. Now with your glove hand, just smush that all together and get that nice and combined, and make sure everything's in good contact. Then we're going to throw away that glove, get some saran wrap, and make sure it's nice and tight. Just like that. And we're going to put that in the fridge for a few hours to overnight. Once the meat is marinated and you're ready to actually cook the meal, we're going to do some prep stuff. You're going to grab 2 pounds of mushrooms and 1 onion. Here, for the onion, I'm just going to dice it. And to do that, we just cut the top off, flip it over, cut down the bottom. And here's a great little trick that I learned. Grab a bowl for all your scraps. It's called a trash bowl. That way you're not constantly working around trash or turning around to throw it away. So then we're just going to go slice long ways toward the back, just like that. And then we're going to turn it 90 degrees. Once I'm done, turn. There we go. And now see all those great little slices and layers? Now we're going to chop those in this direction. See that? Look at that great little dice we got there. So keep going until you get to the end of the onion. And if you want, you can chop this up, turn it and cut around the butt. And we throw that in the bowl. And then we're just going to do the same thing to the other half of the onion. And as you're about to see, sometimes onions can get to me and make me cry. Just walk away, wipe away those tears. You're not going to hurt the onion's feelings. It's fine. Just get back to work. Try to not cut your fingers off while you can't see. That's the important part. Put that in the trash and slide all those onions off to the side. Now we're gonna work on the mushrooms. These mushrooms look a little dirty. That's not gonna work. So there's a myth that you can't wash mushrooms. They'll become waterlogged. Now, I wouldn't soak mushrooms in a bowl of water. That will waterlog them. But take a little bit of water like I do here, rub the tops with your thumbs, they'll be fine. Once the mushrooms are all clean, you're gonna bring them back to the cutting board and we're gonna slice these up longwise. Now, this is where I made my crucial mistake when cooking for my family. I forgot my wife hates mushrooms. So if you have a family member that doesn't like mushrooms, for her it's more of a texture thing, I would go back and I would dice them instead of slice them. But here, I'm just taking the mushrooms and cutting them into long slices. And mushrooms can be kind of tricky to slice, just the awkward shape of it all. Be careful, take your time. We're not setting any speed records with these mushrooms in the home kitchen. And just like that, we have all of our mushrooms sliced. Once everything is prepped and ready, we're going to grab our skillet and we're going to turn it on to medium-high heat and let that heat up. Go to the fridge, get your beef, take off the cover, and look at it. Looks pretty good. Once the pan's heated up a little bit, we're gonna add about a tablespoon or two of, here I'm using grapeseed oil, but any neutral flavor vegetable oil is fine. I would stay away from extra virgin olive oil because you want something that can handle high heat. Once that oil is nice and heated, we're gonna do this in stages. So we're gonna add half the beef. Just lay it in there. Try not to overcrowd the pan, because that's going to bring down the temperature of the pan too much, too fast, and won't have time to recover and get a nice crisp on your beef. So you're just going to let that sit there and cook. Try not to stir it around too much at first so it can get a nice Maillard reaction. Once the beef's been cooking for a little bit, make sure to flip those pieces over so everything can cook evenly. And you don't need to cook this all the way through. This is gonna be cooking in the sauce. We're just trying to get a nice crust on it for flavor and get some of that nice delicious fond there at the bottom of the pan. Once it's par cooked, you're gonna take all the beef out and we're gonna do the next batch. So you're gonna add in just the rest of that beef, kind of evenly distribute it throughout the pan. And just like before, we're gonna let that sit for just a couple minutes to crisp up. And then as it cooks, we're gonna take it out and look at all that delicious fond at the bottom of the pan there. That is where a lot of our flavor is gonna come from. Oh, forgot those pieces. And we're also going to add some butter now to the pan. That was probably about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of butter. And we're going to start with the mushrooms. I'm gonna throw all of those mushrooms in, just like that. Grab whatever stirring device you have and give those mushrooms a stir. We're going to cook these mushrooms until they're brown. And while those are cooking, we're also going to chop up some garlic. And I'm going to be getting about 5 to 6 cloves of garlic. If you want to do less, you totally can, but I'm a firm believer in it is almost impossible to have too much garlic. Now this is my favorite method for peeling garlic. Grab yourself a dough scraper, or a knife if you don't have a dough scraper. You're going to place it on the garlic, big fist, smash. And that will release the garlic from the peel. You just do that to all the garlics, and you'll be good to go and chop those up. Now that these mushrooms are looking nice and brown and delicious, use your tongue or your spoon and give a little scrape and get that fond up. The mushrooms will release a lot of moisture to help release that fond. Then go back and grab your onions and garlic, and we're going to add all of that in. Give that a little stir, make sure it's all mixed together, and we're going to let that cook. After a few minutes, it should look like this. And then we're gonna deglaze the pan with some white wine. If you don't have white wine, you can use chicken broth or water, but I would not recommend using cooking wine. That stuff is very salty and tastes absolutely terrible. This wine tastes pretty good. So you add about a quarter cup of white wine and let that deglaze the pan. Stir that all around, make sure you get all those yummy bits. Then we're gonna add our beef stock. Here I'm using Better Than Bouillon beef stock, and I have about 2 cups. And then to thicken it, we're gonna use about 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour. If you or someone you're cooking for is gluten-free, you can also use cornstarch, that's no problem. But just remember that's gonna take a little bit between the heat and the absorption of the flour for it to show that it's thickening up. If it's too thick, add more broth. If it's not thick enough, add more flour. We're also doing a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. If you don't have Dijon, that's totally fine. You can use yellow, but Dijon has that distinct flavor. After all that is mixed together, we're grabbing some heavy whipping cream and sour cream. We're gonna add about a quarter cup of heavy whipping cream. Maybe a little bit more, depending. Get that all mixed in. And with heavy whipping cream, unlike milk, you don't really have to temper it. With milk, you'll notice if you add it to something hot, it can curdle. You don't have to worry about that with cream. And same thing with sour cream. You can just add it right in. Once that's all mixed together, we're gonna add our beef back into the pot. All those juices and mix it all together. After letting the dish simmer for a few minutes, we're gonna taste it. One of the most important things I always tell people is you have to taste what you're cooking. That way you can know how you need to season it. This was pretty good, but I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. And we're gonna do a few laps around the pepper mill as well. But you season it to how you like. It's important to taste your food. After you're done seasoning it, let it simmer a bit more, let those flavors meld together, and we're gonna make a package of egg noodles. I didn't show that here in the video, but just follow the directions on the package. Look at that. Way better and almost just as easy as the box. I can't wait to hear about how this stroganoff keeps you warm on that upcoming winter night. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and I'll see you on Discord. Now, get in my belly.